Hey, what do you want to da-da-da?
I don't know. What do y'all think we should da-da-da?
Well, what did we da yesterday?
Yesterday.
All the dots feel like the same da these days.
I know.
Like, is today Monday or Tuesday?
Today is Thursday.
Oh no, I forgot to call my mom on her birthday.
Oh no!
No!
These days, nothing is normal and everything is weird. But you could still save big when you switch to Progressive. That won't change. Not today or any day.
Quote today at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey guys, it's time for this week's episode of the Inside Line Formula One podcast. And guys, it is the week of the British Grand Prix, the home of Formula One.
And the home of almost every Formula One team except for Ferrari. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. And I must say, this is actually the biggest sporting weekend of the year. We have the Cricket World Cup, we have the Wimbledon finals, and we have the British Grand Prix.
And not to forget, we have the final round of the current Formula E season. Kunal, I have to ask, are you going to watch all of this?
Yes, I at least plan to watch Wimbledon and the motorsport series that are there this weekend.
I know, but our listeners from India are going to be a little upset to not see India make it to the finals of the World Cup. But guys, I guess that's life.
Yes, I think it's like more than 1 billion people were heartbroken a few days ago as India lost to New Zealand in the one-day cricket match that actually lasted for 2 days thanks to rain.
Also, I think the silver lining in the dark cloud around India's non-participation in the Cricket World Cup finals is that, guys, this Sunday we will finally have a fan meet in Mumbai. It's happening.
Yes, we're still working around the mechanics of the fan meet and the race screening of the British Grand Prix. So please visit our Facebook page, Inside Line F1 Podcast, for more details. We will keep them sharing as things get confirmed. And I must thank Rajesh, Christopher, Vinayak, Sachin, and several other fans and listeners for reaching out to us via social media inquiring about the fan meetup. So if you're listening to us and are from Mumbai, please feel free to come and watch the race with us. Like I said, check details on Facebook, and that was actually a message on Twitter asking where the fan meet is going to be.
Great. So guys, we have a lot to look forward to in this week's episode. We're going to look at why Rich Energy should actually be partnering with Mercedes and not even Ferrari.
I don't know if Rich Energy should be a part of Formula One altogether, but why not? What I would love to talk about is why Romain Grosjean shouldn't be involved in writing the 2021 rules and regulations, because after Hülkenberg and Hamilton, it's Romain Grosjean who's going to attend the 2021 rules meet, I think, next week sometime. But guys, remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, Audio Boom, Google Podcasts, and pretty much every audio streaming platform for your weekly dose of Formula One humor.
We're everywhere. Kunal, so Lewis Hamilton thinks that Formula One should consciously work to avoid date clashes with one of the most iconic tennis events in history, the Wimbledon.
And I absolutely agree with our world champion.
I think this means that in the last week, Lewis Hamilton is the only person who's been making comments to improve Formula One. I really wonder if he's taken our advice of being Chase Carey's replacement very seriously.
Can you imagine Toto Wolff versus Lewis Hamilton fighting to become the next CEO of Formula One?
Yeah, that's one battle I'd love to watch, actually.
Yeah, Wolff's statement last week was that something that fell in a similar realm. He said that he urged other Formula One teams to not talk down on the sport of Formula One. And on that note, there is one team that we all definitely need to talk about, and we will focus a little bit more on, and that's McLaren. Also, home team, home race for them.
Yeah, Kunal, for once, it's like less jokes and more substance, because they've performed exceptionally well this season, and they got the jump on everyone when it comes to finalizing their driver lineup for 2020.
And I get this feeling that McLaren's driver lineup announcement was triggered by our episode from last week, which was all about the 2020 silly season.
Haha, I think you're right. I actually do think you're right.
They really thought that Fernando Alonso was in contention. In which case, I must say, great move by McLaren. They've got a setup that seems to be, working finally. So might as well just commit to retaining that setup for as long as they can and as early as they can.
But I'm sure that the Fernando Alonso, the rumors around his return to Formula One, they must have given Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz the shivers. Because despite Zak Brown saying that McLaren would need to run 3 cars if Alonso chose to return, it's still Fernando Alonso.
Yes, Fernando Alonso, as you guys would also know, his management has reached out to Red Bull Racing. They told Helmut Marko that Fernando is available for 2020. And McLaren, of course, have released a statement saying that they would not block Alonso if he chose to drive for a rival team next season. And that if the opportunity came his way. Unfortunately, in the headlines, the if wasn't in capital letters, which is what it is.
The fact is that Alonso's career has actually been all about reunifications, First with Renault and then with McLaren. But the question is that even if Red Bull Racing wants Alonso, will Honda agree?
I mean, the Japanese power unit manufacturer refused to give Fernando Alonso a Honda engine for his Indy 500 attempt earlier this year. So you never know, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this story develops through the summer races. But Kunal, it will be something if Red Bull Racing do give wings to Alonso's final flourish in Formula One. Think of it.
I mean, come on, Red Bull Racing, just do it.
I see what you did there.
Everyone can gain inspiration from Nike. Why not?
Yeah, I think the one driver that I really want to talk about in particular is Carlos Sainz. Guys, let's remember he was dropped by Red Bull Racing in favor of Pierre Gasly.
Ouch. Yeah, Pierre Gasly, the over-discussed Formula One driver career, literally.
Yeah, and Sainz, he was loaned to Renault and then again he was a free agent to join McLaren. So quite a checkered past he's had. But, I'll be frank. When Nico Hülkenberg got, the upper hand on Sainz at Renault, I kind of sold all the Sainz stock that I was holding. All of it.
I sold my Sainz stock when he chose a multi-year deal at McLaren. And let's remember at that point, McLaren were the second slowest team in Formula One. So he literally went from being contracted with the second fastest team, which is Red Bull Racing, to the second slowest team. And that's when I thought that's probably the end of Carlos Sainz. But let's see how he actually gets going, because it's Carlos Sainz. He also has a very famous last name to take care of.
So all in all, really good news and good progress for McLaren. Kunal, they've set the benchmark in the midfield, and I'm so curious to see how they hold up in the second half of the season.
Yes, but I must admit, and guys, you must know this as well, a lot of McLaren's pace and non-pace of the other teams is actually down to their understanding and use of the Pirelli tires. The tricky Pirelli tires of 2019, which, pretty much every team want to revert back to the 2018 spec. So I am not taking anything away from McLaren, but I'm just stating a fact that they've actually worked harder than probably other teams in understanding the tires and getting them to perform.
At Austria, though, Kunal, the McLaren Senna car that Gerhard Berger was racing before the race, or driving before the race, those demonstration laps, the McLaren Senna actually caught fire.
It seems that McLaren Senna was probably designed basis last year's Formula One car, the one that kept catching fire all along.
There have also been a string of sponsorship announcements in the last few days. Rocket haven't given up yet on Williams, getting back to their glory days and all of that. They've extended their title sponsorship from 3 to 5 years. So either they're really optimistic or it's bloody cheap to sponsor Williams right now. In that case, I propose we have an inside line logo on the Williams car. We'll talk about it.
But, basically Rocket is just waiting and they're investing in using a headline saying Williams rocks it again or something like that in the future. So, but of course, talking of sponsorship, the big talk in the paddock about sponsorships is, Rich Energy and Haas. And I believe at the moment no one knows the actual status of the relationship.
You mean if Haas has received the money?
or if their partnership is, still continuing, which is where there's more fun in discussing. Is the partnership still continuing? Because there are so many mixed messages out there.
Yeah, that's true, because none of that money would anyway come to us if it does get paid. So why bother?
Yeah, Rich Energy sent out a tweet saying that they are terminating their relationship with Haas basis their performance in Austria, where Kevin Magnussen was actually competing with Williams. And it's so strange, that the sponsor doesn't want to be seen in that position out there, which is, second last or last, whatever. And Rich Energy have, of course, made it very clear that they want to be seen competing and beating Red Bull Racing.
In that case, Rich Energy just needs to sign up with Mercedes, not even Ferrari. Ironically, Kevin Magnussen qualified 5th in Austria ahead of a Ferrari and a Red Bull Racing. Just saying, because, since Austria has explicitly been stated in the tweet that we've all read and, we've been laughing all over.
Yeah, it's been the paddock joke, literally. I mean, they're really competing with us at the moment in terms of creating humor around Formula One.
We got to up our game.
Yeah, and we're talking of a sponsor, Rich Energy, that actually got excited by the pre-season testing results. And I'm sure you guys remember their tweets from then as well. And now they're literally overlooking Kevin Magnussen's qualifying performance from Austria. So,
can you imagine if
strange are the ways of Formula One.
Yeah, but Kunal, I cannot imagine if Rich Energy actually landed up buying Force India like they intended to. Can you believe it?
Ouch. I mean, my loyalties with Force India are too strong for me to even think of that.
Not funny for you, huh? But for once, I'm just thankful that it was the Strolls and not Story who bought the team.
I read on a motorsports group on WhatsApp that if Rich Energy would have bought Force India, would the employees be selling Rich Energy cans outside Silverstone this weekend? That was the question.
Yikes. Okay, Kunal, so let's get back to the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, do you think he's going to have his 6th victory coming up?
I think so, because Ferrari have already said that they do not expect themselves to be competitive at Silverstone like they were in Austria. But, it's Hamilton's 6th win at Silverstone or Bottas' 6th career win in Formula One. I think those are the two obvious choices for all of us to choose from.
Yeah, by the way, the DRS zone at turn 1 has been removed from this year. Kunal, this is the same place where Marcus Ericsson and Romain Grosjean had accidents last year.
Yes, I remember. And Formula One has basically decided to remove the DRS zone, the controversial DRS zone, even though the probability of a car crashing through that zone has been reduced by 50%.
That's true. Maybe even like 80-90%. I don't know. But we're still in that phase of the season where Romain Grosjean is blaming his bad luck time and time again.
Yeah, and if Romain Grosjean would have still crashed through that DRS zone, he would have blamed Marcus Ericsson. But I cannot believe how Grosjean spun at the end of the pit lane in FP1. It was such a strange moment, as if the embarrassment surrounding the Rich Energy mess wasn't enough for Haas, And Grosjean also, like we said at the start of the episode, is going to be the next driver representative in the meeting to discuss the 2021 rule changes. And in my view, it's a bad choice, because I really wonder if Romain Grosjean is going to be around himself to race the cars that he could end up making the rules for.
That is a really good point. And I mean, for all you know, or all we know, Grosjean could make like anti-spinning software compulsory for all cars.
And Sebastian Vettel might just second that proposal.
Now, that was predictable. But guys, also remember that the pit stop delta at Silverstone is 29 seconds or thereabouts. It's one of the longest on the calendar, if not the longest, I guess.
This means that Ferrari's mechanics may have a few seconds extra to bring their tires, at the very last second, given how they've been facing radio issues yet one more time.
And for the British Grand Prix, Red Bull Racing have signed up to promote James Bond 007. We're going to see the racing cars have the James Bond.
Yeah, the 007 logos.
Instead of the Aston Martin logos.
And in my view, the bigger promotion was actually for the sport of cricket, because Formula One drivers played cricket at Silverstone.
You mean they tried to play?
I mean, they did try to, and poor lads, because they are not really exposed to the sport of cricket. But I believe I saw Daniel Ricciardo, he was able to connect the bat to the ball, something that a lot of other drivers struggle to do so. But, I think this...
It helps that he's from a cricket-playing country.
Yeah, I mean, to think of it, there's George Russell, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, of course, cricket-playing country. Anyone else that you can remember? Because I saw Kevin Magnussen trying his hand at cricket and Nico Hülkenberg, Romain Grosjean as well. And none of them. But anyway, thus, a very fantastic promotion for the sport of cricket, because definitely Formula One is being watched by far more million fans around the world than cricket.
Yeah, a walk down memory lane. So Force India had done a similar proportion around cricket in India in 2013. And guys, that's where I met Kunal for the first time.
Yes, and we had Adrian Suttle and Paul Di Resta play cricket for fun, with the players of the Royal Challengers Bangalore team. The team, both the teams that were at that time owned by Vijay Mallya. And believe it or not, actually, for those who follow cricket, Adrian Suttle ended up hitting the stumps twice while he was bowling, along with bowling legend from South Africa, Alan Donald.
Wow. Guys, this is exactly what happens in India during these 2-3 weeks when the World Cup is going on. All conversations just land up going towards cricket.
But there is a large-scale furor around the delayed broadcast of the British Grand Prix in India. And this actually now leads me to talk about the 5-point agenda that Lewis Hamilton has devised to save Formula One. And I'm not going to read through all of them, just a quick browse through. He said to involve the drivers and to remove all the teams from any and every decision making. And then he, of course, said something really interesting, which was to scrap all plans to make the cars heavier and slower.
I think the one point that really stood out from what Hamilton said, was that the sport really needs to work with the drivers and with Pirelli to make tyres that can be pushed to the limit every single lap. Basically, reduce tyre management.
And if Lewis Hamilton does become the CEO of Formula One, I wonder if he will be the one to lead Formula One with a merger with Formula E, because, he's all about sustainable living and, all of that. Maybe it's going to be about sustainable racing.
Plant-based diet.
and remember, guys, he's also just sold off his private jet.
Yeah, there were photographs of Hamilton queuing up to board a regular commercial aircraft to get to the British Grand Prix.
Yes.
Kunal, wouldn't it be cool if we're flying, in the same aircraft as Lewis Hamilton? I'd love that. And
we'll just do a podcast with him mid-air,
and I don't know if this is part of his sustainability agenda or not, but he's gone and unfollowed everyone on Instagram as of the Austrian Grand Prix. I'm wondering what his next move on social media will be, because as of the Friday of the British Grand Prix, his count of following was still 0.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what his move is going to be. You know, it's probably easy to predict what his move is going to be entering turn 1 of Silverstone if he qualifies P2 and all of that, but not on social media. But since we're on the topic of saving Formula One, Bernie Ecclestone, the original emperor and the king of the sport, he shared his plans of saving Formula One as well. But it was just so complex that I couldn't go beyond like the third point. And I wouldn't even bother boring you guys, with it. Because, like he said, we don't want to make Formula One boring one more time. And that's what I would end up doing to the podcast if I read out what Ecclestone wants to do with the sport.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not in that case. Anyway, guys, closing notes before I hand it over to Lucian for his Moments in Time section.
Our research threw up that Christian Horner raced with Max Verstappen's mother, Sophie, back in the late 80s. How cool is that?
That's really cool. Formula One will use the platform of golf to support a breast cancer organization. And Kunal, this is really impressive given how Formula One can be seen as such a male sport in every other way.
That's interesting. Yeah, I remember this is going to be around the American Grand Prix later on in the year.
Great, so over to Lucian for his fantastic Moments in Time section.
Welcome to Moments in Time on the Inside Line with Lucian Byfield. Today, we shall look back on the history of the British Grand Prix. Over the years, the Brits have fared pretty well, with Jim Clark and Lewis Hamilton winning 5 times, Nigel Mansell 4 times, Stirling Moss and David Coulthard and Jackie Stewart winning twice, although Moss did share one of his victories with Tony Brooks. Such were the rules back in the day when you could swap cars mid-race. And let us not forget James Hunt winning in his championship year, only to be stripped of the win after the rabid crowd had demanded he take the restart when not really allowed to. He did win the race in 1977 as world champion. John Watson was to win in 1981, and it turned out to be the first win for a carbon fibre monocoque. Nigel Mansell was to get his first win on home soil in Brands Hatch 85, but it was not called the British Grand Prix. Nigel features heavily in the history of this race, be it his first finish of the 88 season in the Williams Judd, an underpowered, unreliable car. What about his retirement antics in 1990 when, after taking pole, retiring with glitches and being beaten by his teammate Prost, he announced that for the first time in his life he was going to put his family first? Terrible there. He started his announcement with, "I'm sorry." How can I not mention 1987? In a series of fastest laps, breaking the track record repeatedly, Mansell was to catch, dummy and pass Piquet for the lead. His engine even had a meltdown on the cooling down lap. Prost would win for 4 teams and 4 engines in 83 for Renault, in 85 for McLaren Tag Porsche, in 89 for McLaren Honda, in 90 for Ferrari, and in 93 for Williams Renault. One of the greatest disgraces in Formula One history is when Michael Schumacher and his Ferrari team took advantage of a loophole in 1998. Michael, late in the race, was given a drive-through penalty and took his drive-through at the end of the last lap. He was awarded the race win. Aussies Jack Brabham and Mark Webber shone in the UK too. Black Jack was to win 3 times, Webber was to give us a wonderful soundbite in 2010. As he crossed the line, Christian Horner congratulated him, and he replied by saying, "Not bad for a number 2 driver." Michael Schumacher broke his leg in 99. Ayrton Senna was to break down 3 years in a row at the same corner, which ironically in that 3rd year had a banner held up by a fan offering parking for Mr. Senna. Sterling Moss, to this day, does not know whether he beat Fangio fair and square in 1955 or if Fangio let him win. Fangio was never to affirm this fact, just stating that Moss was the man that day. What about that crazy protester in 2003, or lunatic as James Allen called him, who ran onto the track bringing out the safety car? In closing, let us remember 1994. Damon Hill, mounting a serious title challenge against Michael Schumacher, was to fill the family trophy room with its one and only British Grand Prix trophy, because his father, Graham, never won there. Now the race was controversial with, of course, Michael Schumacher. Mickey the Shoe was to pass Damon on the warm-up lap. Not allowed. But there was a restart, and guess what? Michael did it again. It was some kind of psychological game. In the end, Damon would win on track, Shuey would come second but later be disqualified. Damon got congratulated by none other than the Princess of Wales, Lady Diana. Well, that's it for Moments in Time on the Inside Line. Catch you later.
Thank you, Lucian. It's always so interesting to hear all these historical perspectives. My favorite, and I of course didn't know this before I heard Lucian's segment, was when Alain Prost won the British Grand Prix with 4 different teams and 4 different engines. And the one that I of course remember was when Michael Schumacher won the race in the pit lane. Like, that just took the cake away, for me. Can you imagine there was a time when Ferrari were literally at their strategic best in Formula One?
I really liked hearing about Senna's 3 retirements at the same corner and the fan banner offering parking for the Brazilian. That was really cool. Thank you, Lucian. It's so much fun to listen to your historical research for each and every Grand Prix. Thank you. Kunal, so this is where I ask you to make your predictions for Silverstone. And, I must warn you that Formula One is really playing up Silverstone's new tarmac. And they're citing this as a reason to expect the unexpected. And then there's always everyone at Mercedes who keeps talking about how difficult the task is ahead of them.
Somebody should actually make a website. How afraid are Mercedes of Ferrari before every Grand Prix weekend? And we'll have so many quotes trying to say that how Ferrari is caught up and Red Bull are strong and it's going to be a task ahead, for Mercedes and all of that. Because that's all we keep hearing, how Ferrari and Red Bull racing are still a threat. But since we are waiting for predictions from me, I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton clinching his 6th win in Silverstone. And it's going to be Lance Stroll who will exit for, I think, the 14th consecutive race of his career. He'll exit from Q1, of course.
Okay, I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit. I'm going to say it's going to be a Valtteri Bottas victory and a Roger Federer win at Wimbledon and a Jean-Eric Verne win in Formula E.
Wow.
Take that.
Interesting. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you a few days after the British Grand Prix. Adios.
Adios.